And give me a minute, I will just check how it goes. I will put it as well, the video on the live on my mobile, so I can follow up the mobile. Can check that everything goes well first. So see. Okay, it seems that everything is working. Be sure that the volume is out here. Okay. So yeah, here we are in a new live, new live video, and yeah, I'm going to do some painting and chatting with you. So yeah, I know that I have to maybe to organize better this one. We have here at the bottom all these Christmas things. Yeah, we are now in the Christmas mood. December have fly away. It's incredible how fast have been December and all the year. It seems that for me have fly away all the year, very fast, very busy all the time. And yeah, we are at the end of the year. So let me just first remove these things. I will share you some of the work that have been working. And yeah, the idea is to chat a little bit about hobby. Today, maybe I will, if there is not other topics, I will talk a little bit about how the channel is doing. And I will also talk about some basic techniques or techniques that I'm using for painting. So yes, we are two at this moment. So let's see how this goes, and I hope more people will join over time. So let's maybe first recap. I'm still painting the Sisters of Battle. Okay, I have six finished. Okay, so the last one was this lady. Okay, so yeah, I need to see how I can make better light to show these things. So this is the one with the Simulacrum Imperialis, and I like a lot the lady with the heavy Volter. I think it's a very nice pose. Okay. How long is I having the light like that is not helping. Okay. So this is another one, and then the other thing I've been working with is I'm painting the group of 4 branches. So this is work in progress. I just did a tutorial on how to do the armor on this color. Will come on Monday, so you will see soon in the chat. And I'm also working. This was the winner of the voting. So I'm painting the Sorcerer from the Thousand Sons. So I hope you like what you see here so far. Okay, let me know what do you think. It's still work in progress, and will come soon the tutorial in the channel. So I hope you will enjoy that. I will now start painting. I will do wet blending today while I'm talking. And to do wet blending, what I have here in my wet palette the 2 colors that I want to use. Let me see if I can move this down a little bit to the table. It's going to be more interesting than see my face. Well, you can see both things. So I have here the cream color. I will put a little bit more. And the color I'm using is Flake One Flesh to do the bone color. And I have as well a very pale bone color. I will put a little more here. Okay, and just next to it, I have this color. This. If we find it, this color. Okay, it's a very light ivory color. So we are going to do some wet blending. So when you're doing wet blending, you really want to work. The idea I do it a lot on when I need smooth transitions, and yeah, on this case, for example, to do the cape, you need to really go very, very smooth. You need to apply here a little bit more of the green color because the blue, the stained blue was still visible. You can see, and I will start the working on this side. So I will start from the head. Okay, applying a very, very pale white. I also have white. I will need to put a little bit more white because it's quite dry, the one I have here. Let me see if I can moisture a little bit. This is even on the wet palette, as I'm painting for sometimes for a long time, it gets dry. So I have to keep putting some water on the wet palette from time to time. If not, the paints get dry as well on the wet palette. And it's because I'm painting long time. So yeah, it gets dry a little bit. So I will put here some. So let's talk about the channel, how it's doing. Well, the channel this month has been a little bit disappointed. I'm flat completely, and I don't know why. So normally, yeah, I was not one of the fastest growing channels, but this month have been quite disappointing. I have views, okay, I cannot complain on that. I have also hours of view, that is good, but I did not grow a single sub in the last. In the last 28 days, I just grew 2 subscribers. And it's have been a little bit disappointing. So yeah, I will ask the community, please, if you can help sharing my channel and liking, commenting, because this can help my channel to grow. It's not, I will not stop doing anything because of that, right? Because it's not growing, but yeah, normally it's an extra motivation to see that the channel is doing well and is performing and you have more people following you. Okay, so it's also, it's a balance, right? It's you like to see that what you do, there are people interested in what you are doing. If not, why I will do the channel, right? I know that the views is showing as well interest, and especially the people that is watching the video completely. Some very nice comments I received recently, thanking me for the tutorials. So this is very good. But at the same time, if you can share it with other people that you think that can be interested in the tutorials and so on, and if you think that I can improve in something, don't hesitate to leave it in the comments, right? I know that there is. I know that sometimes I make mistakes, and I should frame better what I'm doing, but it's quite tough sometimes because doing it alone, I cannot watch the camera and the monitor at the same time. I try to check the camera is focusing on the right position, but I don't know why sometimes the camera is moving. So I need really to look at that. I think I need to go back to put a frame on my table and try to be sure that I'm painting inside of this frame. Yeah, but yeah, but I think I try to improve what I'm doing and trying to improve the quality. I'm looking for new methods to do tutorials. And as you know, this channel is now basically on tutorials and review of products and unboxings, okay? Yeah, if you have not seen the unboxing of the direct charging yet in this channel, it's because I have not received the box yet. I ordered it. It's in my way. It's on my way, sorry. And I hope I will have it soon. I can give my opinion. I have not seen too many reviews on the direct charge, to be fair. I don't know if Warhammer Underworlds is losing popularity or is losing interest. Pretty sure that the pandemic situation is not helping for this type of games that are more oriented on the fast gaming, right? To go to place to play. So yeah, other games like you need more. There is more hobby investment can be more interesting, but yeah, maybe these board games are suffering a little bit more. I don't know, but I don't see. Yeah, the group I was playing here in Belgium, we cannot meet because we were playing in a bar. The bars are completely closed. So yeah, waiting to go a little bit back to normality because it's starting to be quite long, all these restrictions and so on. And I'm wondering if the bar will survive all this pandemic and if they will receive the appropriate support. Okay. So yeah, but I will try to bring these showcases, unboxings as well. I want to do a showcase of my Bretonian army. So I hope this will come soon. Okay. I don't think I will do too much Bretonians in the future because I don't have more miniatures, and I will not pay a lot. I will not pay the high prices for these miniatures. I'm not in that. Maybe I will use alternative sculpts. I would like to complete the peasant unit and to increase it in numbers is the only. And I would love to have a green knight. I don't know why I never bought the green knight and now I'm missing it. Okay. So yeah, you can see I'm using a mixture when I'm doing this type of clothes where I want to be smooth and I want to have nice transitions and be soft. I'm using a mixture of glazing and wet blending. So I try to go with thin paints. It's very important to one of the things that we need to have practice when painting miniatures is to find the right dilution of the paints, right? That is helping you to work. Because if it's too much dilute, sometimes it's out of control and it's difficult to control where the paint goes. If it's not dilute enough, then you have problems to have nice transitions, smooth painting, and so on. So it's quite important, and it's something that you get by practice. And everyone can have maybe the right dilution in a different position, in a different point, right? You have to find your own way to have the correct brush control and the correct dilution of the paint. I find it's a little bit personal. Some people like very dilute. I'm more on. I like to thin the paints, but not too much. And I think it's up to every painter. I see that there is some people watching this. Don't hesitate to leave comments, questions. If you want to know something about me or any technique that you would like me to explain here, now is the moment. So this is this is a live to have an open conversation with all of you. Let's talk a little bit about techniques and painting for beginners, right? So, and then I will talk about the contrast because I think the contrast is a great product, is a great tool to paint miniatures. And I would like to share with you my experience on the contrast paints and how that I like quite a lot and what I think about the contrast paints. So first about techniques for beginners. So the first technique that you have to master as a beginner, and it's not really a technique, is to make thin base coats. To apply the paint, okay, the first thing is to apply the paint correctly, thin, and in the right place. Because this is the first part that you need to have control. To apply and sometimes we overlook this part, but until you don't have practice with the brush, it can be quite tricky to put the paint in the right place. Okay, and we underestimate when we are being for a while painting, but it's not easy at the beginning to control and to put the paint in the right place. So the first thing is to practice and to have the paint, to apply the paint in the right place, trying to not go out of to dirt other parts. Okay, this is quite, I think, important thing. The next part that I think we also overlook a lot of times is to know how to repair your mistakes. And this is quite important. So, because sometimes we will not pay attention to that. And maybe I should do a video tutorial on that, because all of us, we do mistakes painting. I even do mistakes today. You want to go fast, and then you dirten another part. You don't realize the brush touches the part that you didn't want to touch, and you're dirtening. And depending what you do, there is different ways to do these small repairs. And these small touches to repair or to clean some parts is what can make the difference between a correct miniature and a very nice miniature sometimes. So it's important to understand that everybody makes mistakes. There is no one that is not making mistakes. Everybody needs to do some corrections and adjustments when painting. Okay, so does not exist the perfect painter that cannot do mistakes, or at least based on my experience. But does not exist the perfection in anything, right? So there's people that do much less mistakes than others, that they have more precision, but does not exist a person that cannot do a mistake. Okay. So these are the first part. Then the first technique that I will always recommend is what it is. Hi Essex boys. Thanks a lot for joining, and yeah, Merry Christmas to you as well. So thanks a lot for joining. Very glad that you are here. Okay, and yeah, I hope you like it. And please, if you have any question or anything that you would like me to talk about, don't hesitate to leave it in the comments. As usual, this I try to be. I try to do this live as an open chat to discuss with all of you, to talk with all of you. So I was talking about the different techniques and advices to people when starting, and I say that sometimes we overlook, but we should. Yeah, the first part that we need to practice is to have brush control, because it's something that is sometimes is not natural, and you want to apply the paint in the right position. So the first part is to apply the paint where you want the paint to be, right? And try to paint within the limits, what I will call it. The next one is to know how to correct mistakes, and this can change and evolve as your techniques are evolving. Okay, the first one is to understand that if you do a mistake and you put a little bit of red on a white part, that you have to come back with the white and clean up a little bit. This can happen. This happens to everyone. Okay, so this is quite normal. So the first technique that I will recommend the people to understand or to work. I know that a lot of people start with the dry brushing. I may start with the washes, because I think today we have really high quality washes, and they can give you an excellent finishing. The washes today are really good. Not only the Games Workshop ones, but we have a lot of companies doing washes and yeah, and this type of how it's called, inks or similars, right? That can be used to do shading. The important thing on the washes is to get practice and to understand how the wash flow and how you can apply the wash in a clean way and putting the wash in the right places. Sometimes you want to wash over the whole miniature. Sometimes you want to wash a concrete part of the miniatures, and sometimes you want to do a spot wash or wash just the crevices. So I will start recommending for the generic wash by colors, okay? And to understand how the washes interact with your paints. This will be, yeah, maybe the first technique that I will recommend you to. Yes, everybody's correcting mistakes. I told you, does not exist the perfect painter, right? The painter that is not doing mistakes. I don't think this is existing. So we all do mistakes. So talking about the washes, I think that the important thing is to get familiar with it. They flow very differently than the normal paints because they have a different function. But if you start knowing how the washes work, you can speed up a lot the paint. You can do paint very fast just with the base coat and a wash. Okay. Traditionally was the dry brushing, but I will say washes can form, and this is based on my experience. I think washes can drive you to better results. Okay, easier, or easier, in an easier way. Okay, and after you have you master how to apply washes. Okay, one of the things that is related to the previous point is what I call to clean up the wash. Okay, the wash can be sometimes a dirty technique or dirty paint, a dirty tool. So that is, if you want to be sharper with the final result, it's important to understand how to clean up the wash. And this is very linked to how to clean up your mistakes. This is very linked to that. So at the end, if you learn how to clean up mistakes, you will also understand how to clean up the wash. The wash will not always go to the same to the right position. Let me show you one example, right? What I'm talking about. So the top part of this have a wash and nothing else. The bottom part we start cleaning up. Okay. Okay, I have done more than that, but this is what it's meaning. So when you go back with the base color and start pulling out some of or not pulling out, painting on top of some of the washes, you start making the paint job sharper, nicer. And this is the next thing I will recommend. So apply washes. Next step, clean up. Next technique you want to learn, or next thing you want to practice, clean up the wash. Okay, come back with the base color, the previous color, and remove the excess of wash. Okay, where you think that it went too dark, where you think that you have put too much wash, there is where you want to reapply the base color and do a little bit of cleanup, tidying up the paint job. The next technique for me will be the dry brushing then. Okay, and dry brushing, I will always say I will not apply it, and this is my preference, right? All of things. Yeah, I see the point. I really see your comment. Yes, I got air shade. Okay, I got air shade is a magic wash. It's a wash that it's like a joker on the paint job. It helps to do shading on a lot of colors. I will recommend it for browns, of course. I will recommend it for reds, even some oranges. If you go to flesh tones or bone colors, I would recommend more maybe on the Seraphim Sepia or the Regland Flesh Sheet. These are the three washes. With these three washes, you almost cover 90% of your work, of the washes that you need. Then you can have a specific. If you do, for example, for the red, I will always recommend Agra's Air Shade. But the Agra's Air Shade on purple will not work that well, so I will recommend maybe if it's a dark purple, Moon Oil, a black. So it's something that you have to start experimenting, working with, and knowing, which wash works better with which color. But I understand the point. Agatha shade is so a good wash. Okay, it's working so well on so many colors. That's I can see the point that you just do a wash of Agatha shade over the whole miniature, and the miniature looks good, and it will look quite interesting. It will look quite good. It will look a little bit dirty, but depending what you're painting, it's good enough or can be good enough for a tabletop, right? So it all depends. And the point is, when you start painting, I will not recommend you to try to learn all the techniques. This is a nonsense, okay? What you want to do is to start learning one technique, mastering a little bit the technique, not mastering, but understanding well how this technique works, and then go for the next techniques, or just try to do a couple of techniques, but don't try to do all of them at once because you will get mad. Nobody start painting using all the techniques that are existing in the world, because you need to first as I said at the beginning, first you need brush control, and a lot of techniques will require a lot of brush control, and if you don't have that, it makes no sense to start messing up with these techniques. Okay. For example, one of these is edge highlight. To do edge highlight, you need a lot of brush control. If you don't have first the brush control, don't try to do edge highlight. First work on having brush control. The good thing of painting miniatures is that if you don't like some of the old paint jobs, you always can come back in the future and repaint the miniature. Okay, if you don't like what you have done some years ago. Okay, so this is the good point. But I will recommend always keep moving. I will recommend to keep moving and go to the next miniature and say, okay, when I learn new techniques, I can come back to this miniature and clean up, or I can do more, or I can practice other techniques on this miniature later on, once I have mastered the most basic techniques. So I was saying the first wash, second part, it will be how to clean up the wash. I think this is the for me the starting point. How I will start painting today. The next technique will be dry brushing. That this was the first technique after base coating that was taught to me. Okay, a lot of people start with dry brushing. I can understand the brushing is is quite interesting technique. It's very easy. Okay, as maybe easier than the wash or as easy as the washes. Okay, so it's quite interesting technique. It works, dry brushing from my experience, it works very well where you have a lot of texture. Let me explain what I mean here, because it's not so. Because for example, let me go. This is the opposite for me of having texture. Okay, so this is the Banshee I'm painting. So this is quite a flat surface. The dry brushing here, especially for example on the inside, will look quite weird. Will look quite staggy. Okay, so I have more difficulties with natural materials when using washes. What you mean natural materials? Are you meaning skin? Are you meaning wood? Depends a lot on the texture as well, right? For example, if the wood have a very nice texture, it's nice. I understand on the skin can be more tricky sometimes. It can look like dirty skin or too bronze. So yeah. So going back to the dry brushing. So I would recommend it, for example, if you have something with a lot of texture, like something like wings, like with all the feathers. Here, the dry brushing will do a nice job. Will work quite nicely. Okay, so let me go here on this one, like the feathers on this one. So these are parts that you want to do with dry brushing. Okay, I see the point. So yeah, I see in the chat it says that the skin and clothes particularly. On this clothes, I use washes from time to time. The problem is the texture is very smooth normally, right? Let's make a look on this one. Okay, so we have folds and wrinkles and all these type of things, but they are quite smooth compared to the texture, for example, of the wing, of the shoulder pad. What is the problem when you do a wash is that the wash will start dripping down. So if you want to do first a cloth, the first thing I would recommend is that you do it in parts. And if it's like the Banshee, like this is a very smooth, natural shapes, here the wash it's going to be very tricky because the curvatures and the wash works very well by capillary effect. So there is two parts that the wash is works well. Is the capillary effect and is the gravity. When the transitions or the folds, the texture is very smooth, like a cloth, there is no capillary effect. Okay, it's only the gravity what is going to work. So the ink will trend, or the wash will trend to go down. So the only way to fake it is to leave the miniature lying like that. And then you will create the shade inside of the recesses. But if it's lying like that on the table, at the end, the wash will start dripping down. So this is why the wash sometimes is not working. And I see I'm missing everybody. I don't know if I have a problem. Okay, so this is yeah, I don't know what's happening. So this is why I recommend the washes. Although it's the first technique I will recommend, you will learn later on that on clothes, for more advanced techniques, I will recommend other techniques on clothes. And on the skin, it's a little bit the same. So the skin can look very dirty and not natural. Can look that he has been in a muddy environment for a while. Okay. So, but yeah, on washes, I will recommend to put the miniature more. Yeah, on clothes, if you do it, put it on horizontal, and try to use a wash that is not too strong compared to the base color. Try to do it smooth. Sometimes you will need to do your own wash. For example, if you're really doing white, I will use one of the contrast paint as a wash, because if not, it will, for example, yeah, you cannot put surfing sepia with Hershey here. It will look dirty. Okay, it's quite, and this is why when you start having more and more control for clothes, I will stop using washes and I will go for wet blending or glazing. Okay, or a mixture of the two. That is what I'm doing here. What consists wet blending is that, yeah, you try to you first I apply a base color and then I will start doing the highlights with a lighter color. So normally, and sometimes I even have a shade as well. Okay, and you mix them directly on the miniature. So you come with the paint quite thin and you mix them in the middle. I just did the tutorial last week on one of the Sisters of Battle on the cloth. Okay, and I'm using the same here. So what I'm trying to do is I'm coming with now with almost pure white, and I will glaze on top. I'm coming with a paint that is quite thin, so it means that I will, with passion, apply where I need the shade. Okay, especially when like this one that the transitions are very smooth, so you cannot go with you don't have a strong texture that you can use to support your or to use the wash to help yourself with a wash. This is why sometimes on this type of miniatures, I yeah I start is a good miniature to start even practicing the wet blending. Okay, especially when you have these big surfaces that for me I will consider them almost flat surfaces. Okay, technically the wash will not work here. And the other problem of the wash on this miniature is that it will tell you exactly where you have the joints and everything, the unions of between parts, any mold mark, any small thing. While if you start using wet blending, you can use the paint job to dissimulate, to hide if there is a line, a joint line or something like that, right? So yeah. So wet blending will come after dry brushing for me, and it's you require quite some brush control, and I will tell you, I think it's better to start with wet blending than edge highlighting. This was not the case in my case. I started doing edge highlight before wet blending, but edge highlight you have the risk that your transitions are too stark, are too strong. The option, the alternative to wet blending is layering, but I will say wet blending, if you start practicing it, don't be scared, okay? Because it's a faster way to paint than layering, and it will give you normally. I like more the results. I like more the finishing if you start mastering the wet blending. Okay, if you start controlling that, so I will consider wet blending for me is the best technique when you try to paint clothes. Okay. Sometimes when the clothes have a lot of texture or it's not very big, I also use washes. Don't get me wrong, you can use also washes. But then you have to do a lot of work on clean up the wash most of the time. Okay, and it's because of that, because the curvature, the textures, all is much smoother, and the wash then is not performing as well as on surface where you have much more texture. Okay, so all is about, it's a little bit all about physics, and it's a competition. The wash is, it's always competing between the gravity and the capillary force, and as well the other one is the tension angle and how much is wetting on the surface, right? If you have a gloss varnish, for example, this is why some people sometimes put gloss varnish. The wash will not wet to very well the surface, so you can, the wash will, if it's completely, if you put a gloss varnish and you have a completely flat surface, the wash will yeah, run down. Okay. Well, if you put something that is the opposite, rugosity or something like that, the wash will need more time to drip down. So this is why sometimes some people is using varnish to force the wash to go into the recesses. The risk is if it's like that, that you don't have good recesses, the wash will drip down very fast. Okay, I've never used gloss varnish to help the wash. Okay, normally I prefer to, I apply the wash directly. And the other thing is, instead of being very heavy with the wash, another thing that is interesting, because normally when we're doing base coating, okay, we recommend to do 2 thin coats or 3 thin coats, depending on the color, right? But we always say don't do a big thick coat. Okay, on the washes, I will do the same. I will use the same principle. Don't try to do a big thick wash or a big heavy wash. Do it in 2 parts. Do 2 washes on the miniature. Okay. Start with a softer transition, and then maybe you can put a darker wash later on. Or sometimes you can put 2 times the same wash, right? Because the second time you're giving even a darker color. So sometimes in washes is also better to do 2 layers thinner with less wash than trying to make it in a big layer. I use layering technique, but I have never tried wet blending. So new challenge for 2021. I highly recommend it, as I said. I highly recommend it, wet blending. Okay, and let's say it's sometimes a mixture between wet blending and layering what I'm doing. But you see, I don't let the paint to dry. Okay, I was painting dark color, and now I come with the lighter one and I start going over next to it, and then the color I'm applying at the end is not the same that I have in my palette. It's a little bit darker, and it helps. It's smoothing a lot the transition. Okay. The wet blending also you have to be careful. Don't I let dry some. This is why I'm changing from zone to zone, not from part to part of the miniature, because I let it dry. If not, you start pulling away all the paint, and it's not working. Okay. So again, it's all these techniques is a matter of explanation and then practice, practice, and practice. Painting is about practicing. Okay, it's good to follow tutorials. I know that I'm throwing stones onto my feet, but I think the practice is what it will give you the mastery on painting. Okay, so if you want to really, don't hesitate. The worst that can happen is that you have to strip the paint and start again. I don't even do that. If a miniature is not as good as I was expecting, I will do the repair as much as I can and leaving like that as a learning miniature. Okay, so don't learn on characters on expensive miniatures, cheap miniatures, YouTubes. We all have this type of miniatures, but it's important that you practice new techniques and you try to understand new techniques. Okay, I know you can see I have almost done all the shading on this one and it's quite smooth. And I was just talking, so I'm to say when I'm talking and painting, I'm going a little bit slower than normal. Okay, you can see, and it's quite a big surface. This lady, this the cloak or this part of the lady, this ghost. Okay, so this one I will leave it like that. Okay, and I will do the next one. I have more to paint. Okay, and all of them I will follow the same thing. You can see the other thing I have the problem on these banshees is the join. Do you use medium or retardant to slow the dry? No, I use water. I have plain water here if I need it, and the wet palette. It's quite thin, my paint. Okay, let me show you maybe what is very thin the paint. Okay, the paint is very thin. I try to play with thin paint, and I have three colors here. And now I have the base color. I have a light ivory and pure white. And I'm mostering from time to time the brush, and I'm trying to go very thin. I know some people use retardant. If you use a scale 75, have retardant included in the mixture. I'm not using retardant in my case. I'm just it's up to everyone, but I prefer not to use retardant because sometimes when you start pulling too much the paint from one side to the other, there's a moment that you want it to dry, and then start putting another glaze or layer on top. Okay. Sometimes you need to let it dry, and then you come later to the spot. So this is why I prefer not to put retardant. And no one will work here, and yeah, I will need to put now the base color so I can mix it there. Okay. It will go down to put more paint. And it's curious, I'm using quite some paint to these ladies. These are very nice schools, but they are not perfect. The joints are not that good. Sorry, I'm late. What are you painting? Okay. Well, first of all, hello, AF. Glad that you managed, and it's not your mistake to be late. I have to organize better these live shows so I can you can join from the beginning. So what I'm painting now is some banshees, things called Mirmoon banshees. These are the ones that I take from, it's called the Drefane, I think it's called. They also come in the game that is based on the Warhammer Underworlds. They don't remember. It's only sold in US, Canada, and Germany. But these are, and they were also a push fit kit. Okay, so these are from the Ninehound. These are quite nice schools, but they have some tricky parts. I don't know if you can see here in the camera, but they have a big join line there. So the camera doesn't want to focus. There's a big one there, and what I'm doing, yeah, you should use green stuff and so on. And I was lazy, so what I will do is I will use the painting to dissimulate that. Okay. The problem is, if you want to dissimulate with the paint job, you cannot use dry brushing or washes, because the washes will not help to dissimulate that. Okay, the washes will make it even more visible. So what I'm doing today is I'm just doing white blending on these cloaks, because I was explaining on these big surfaces, normally washes are not working, right? Because there is the yeah. Merry Christmas, of course. Merry Christmas, AF. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I was saying that the sculpt is too soft, so the washes will not do the work. This is why I'm using normally wet blending. You can use layering as well. And this one, I will not know if I will be able to simulate the big joint there. It's quite a big one, this one. Okay. I'm just, these are really tubes and are not for contest or anything like that. I will let it go like that. Okay. So, and as I was explaining, I don't using any retardant when I'm doing. I'm just the wet palette. I think it's a great enable for wet blending because it helps you to keep the paints moisture for long period, and this is helping a lot. Is enabling to do the wet blending. I don't need retardant normally. Okay, but for example, here that I have the feeling that the paint started drying a little bit. I put some water and I thin it down. There are options to use thinner. Yeah, I was saying that. Yeah, wet blending. A lot of people struggles. A lot of people have some respect to wet blending. I would say it's a matter of practicing. It's similar. Wet blending is a little bit similar of painting with oils, and the point is that you want to do the mixture directly on the miniature, right? And this is helping to smooth the transitions. Because if you layering, I guess you're doing several layers, each time lighter, to make the transition. Okay, and it's quite a lot of can be quite a lot of work, especially if the surface is smooth, and you have to and you don't want to have a strong transition. The advantage of layering is that of wet blending is that you can do this in just almost one brush stroke, right? So let me explain here. Okay, here at the bottom I want to go whiter, right? So I will apply no pure white at the bottom. If I leave it like that, it will look the transition too strong. So now I take the next ivory. I don't even clean the brush, and I put it here. Okay, and now in the darker part, I will take the ivory, the base coat that I was using as a shade at the end, and I'm start pulling down, and I let it mix there. Okay. There is one thing that I was explaining, that you have to take into account. There is a moment that you have to stop to paint on this area because you start messing up too much. So you have to stop and come back. But now I have done the transition, and it's quite fast when you get it's as all the techniques. It's a matter to have practice. Okay, here I will come back with the white, and because this is the upper part of the fold, I will make it even white here to the top. Okay. As well, I will recommend to start doing soft transitions, not wet blend from, I don't know, from red to purple, from red or red to blue, right? Because this is more a difficult one, and you have to work a lot on the transitions and how you do this. I recommend to do wet blending to do highlights, to do smooth highlights on this type of surfaces, to do smooth transitions on flat areas, but not to do. I will not recommend you to start using the wet blending to do a very strong transition. Okay, let me see if I can do here. Let me do one thing. Okay, and I will try to make live a fast wet blending on a flat surface. So you can see. Let me take a base. Okay, let's imagine that we want to do color transition on a flat surface. Okay, I will have, I don't know, a transition from, let's put what color, from red. Okay, I have it here, corn red. I put some water, corn red. I will transition it to yellow. For example, I have dawn yellow on the other side. Okay, first of all, this is a very strong transition, right? So what I will do first, I will make a mixture somewhere on my white palette of 50-50 to help me on the transition. Okay, I will not do. I will do always a mixture, so I will cheat a little bit, and we'll make a mixture 50-50. So when I do a 50-50, I put it in the middle. I know where I have the transition done. Okay, I have it in the middle. Now that I have it in the middle, I will start moving the wet blending to here. And you can see how the transition looks like, right? Now I will move the same, and I will move it to the upper part. And you can see very fast how the transition goes. Okay, and now is when you start working. If I want the yellow to be brighter or want more yellow, take a little bit more of yellow. Okay, and I smooth here. And I take the mixer I create. If I think I went too far with the yellow, and I start mixing. Okay, and this will be a very strong wet blending, right? A very big one, because you want to go for a very quite a dark red to very yellow that is almost white. You can see, and I will recommend to have a support color in the middle, something that it's in the middle way. Okay. When you see that you start dragging the color away, stop, and I go to the other side. Then on this side, I'm quite happy how it just was looking like. I will just take a little bit more of the pinkish color and pulling a little bit to have the transition done in all the parts. Okay, and you can see that very fast I have a very nice base. Okay, now I have here a lot of this transition of the pink is too strong. I go and I do like that. Just mix it a little bit. Okay, and you can see that I have a smooth a lot the transition. And this is what I'm doing on the, and this is a very strong transition, right? So this was really a heavy transition from a very light yellow to quite dark and red. So this I will say, I will recommend not to do that at the beginning on a miniature. But no, you can imagine that this can be a cloak. I don't know, imagine that you're doing a magician where have the top of the cloak in red and the bottom in yellow. So you can, or the other way around, the top in yellow. So you can do this. Okay, for example, I know, for a cinch, and it's all about practice. Okay, the first time for me was a mess. When I tried to do the first time this color transitions, I tried to do it by brushing. Will not work. You will create a mess. It will look stucky. It will not look good. Sorry. Okay, so here the transitions are much softer and the colors are much closer. Okay, the colors I'm using, let's see if I can show, because are whites. So is this the ivory, then this light ivory and the white. Okay, and yeah, they are very close. So this is the way to start working on the, for me, on the wet blending, and to start having practice, is to start with colors that are quite similar at the beginning, and don't go from one extreme to the other. Create a support color, make a mixture for in between, that it's helping you to go, so do like a 50-50, something that in the middle that will help you to do the transitions. Okay, and this is why the wet palette is great for that, because you can see the yellow I used it this morning, no, this afternoon, it was 3-4 hours ago, to do another thing, to paint on this. I don't remember what I have done. Oh, yeah, it was to paint the glowing on this eyes. Okay, was to paint this guy. And yeah, this, by the way, this is the winner on the votation. So I will put tomorrow the first part on the painting tutorial, and during the week the second part before Christmas. I'm almost done. But this is how easy on a wet palette is to create your mixtures, and to this way also. I've been working for a long time with a wet palette, even doing wet blending, and I was doing here on the carton making my mixers, but I always did this middle mix. Okay, and yes, if you are scared of wet blending or you want to practice, start with surfaces that are quite smooth, and start practicing on colors that does not require a strong change. Okay. Now I have a tricky part here because this part I use the Nihilite oxide, and there is not really an equivalent in Games Workshop that is not the Nihilite oxide. So I think I will do the white blending using Nihilite oxide. The problem is the Nihilite oxide have a very strange texture. So I need to experiment how this will work. Maybe we can do the experiment now in camera. Okay. And at the end, I have to say that every painter has their own favorite techniques, right? As I'm not using airbrush, sorry, I'm not using airbrush, I find the wet blending for me is the technique to simulate the airbrush in some cases. And this is why I'm trying to make use of it. Talking about other techniques, edge highlight. It's very interesting when you're doing this type of miniatures, or even Sisters of Battle for doing armor. So edge highlight is a great technique to do. And one of the armies where I use it the most is on these guys, okay, on the Stonecast Eternals. It's a great technique to do armors, but it requires a lot of brush control. And when you're starting, normally looks quite bad, or it looks thick. So one trick, here another trick that I want to explain. If you want to edge highlight, imagine that I will do a very bold one. I will paint here in red. Imagine that you want to edge highlight the border of the base. Okay, I will do it in yellow so you can see it, the stone, or I will do it maybe in orange, maybe will make more sense. Okay, so I will apply the orange. So now it's not dry, so you need to wait first that it's dry, but for the demonstration, I think it will work anyway. So you can go, it's almost wet blending now because it's still wet. Let me wait that it dries and I will show you what I mean. How to make easier your edge highlight. I will make all this here and I will show you one way to make easier your edge highlight. We'll wait that this dries. In the meantime, we'll keep working on that. So edge highlight, it requires quite some brush control. I will never recommend this for people that is starting because it can be quite discouraging at the beginning because the lines will look thick and the people will think it's better to start using dry brushing at the beginning. And edge highlight I will recommend it mainly when you have armor and you want really to show the edge of this armor or this weapon or something like that. Okay, on metallics also is quite tricky. Metallics have a different concept, and I'm still not feeling mastering the metallics most of the times. I have to do maybe another topic about metallics. Metallics are quite tricky, and the techniques that normally works on normal colors are not working that well on metallics. Like edge highlight sometimes can look, and the problem on the metallics and doing edge highlight on metallics is that depending how the metal pigment is being placed, it can make more or less effect. Okay, it can look more or less strong, the transition, and sometimes looking weird, especially when you try to take then some pictures. And here you can see I'm going to make now a mixture here. So I want to make this part here less stronger, and I'm just in that case I'm just go with a 50% mixture, and this will help. This is quite a tricky one because the folds are very aggressive, and it's difficult to make a nice transition. So because the part that will have the transition is hidden in a way. So here you can go quite stark. The only part that I want to do some transition is on the on one of the sides where the change is softer, and I just now wetting a little bit, and now come with the lighter color to match and mixing. Okay. There will be parts that will be quite challenging anyway. Okay. And sometimes you will need to fake even the shades a little bit. Here, and then I will go up with the lighter color. Okay, I think now it's dry. Imagine that you want to do edge highlight on this thing, okay? What you can do is, or you can try to go very thin, or one option is you just go thick. Okay, I'm going thick on purpose in this moment. Okay, go thick. You got to be, and on top this orange is not covering very nicely on top of the red, so you will need to do almost 2 layers. But I wanted to do a color that is really contrasting, so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I go thick, but my brush is not the best. I don't have the best control on my brush. Okay, you can see I went very stark and thick. Okay, now I wait that this dries. We'll wait that this dries. Always, you have to understand when you need wet paint and when you need dry paint. This is also another thing. And all this is about experience at the end, right? I don't know, how long have you been in the hobby? That's from my curiosity. So let me put in some more white. These paints are not bad, are not the best, but are very cheap. And for white, it's good because they come very thin, and they help me a lot on these transitions. No. So they are really thin, they are very transparent in that case. And also this is helping me because now I'm just almost glazing. Okay, glazing is another technique that, yeah, it's quite interesting, and I don't use it too much. That is to play with the transparency of the paint and to put a paint that is that creates highlight, but at the same time is transparent, right? And it's helping you to you play with this transparency to make the transition less strong. So the only point is that when you do glazing, is very similar to layering, okay, in a way. You have to do multiple layers to arrive to the upper highlight. Okay. Again, all these things, I will say for beginners, I will say wash and dry brush. With that, you can do a lot of things. And brush control is the first thing that you need to gain. Once you have that, then you can start adventuring on new techniques. I've been painting for 1.5 years, almost 2 years. No, SX, you have been as long, but not as long as me. I've been painting. I was 18 when I started, so now means that I've been. It's going to be 27 years painting miniatures. Okay, and I think I never stopped painting miniatures. There were years that I paint much less than others, but well, not every. I was not painting when I was young every day as today, as I'm doing this recently, since I have the channel. And before I was spending a lot of time on video games, But since I stopped playing video games, yeah, I paint much more. Now what I'm doing is I'm applying here a little bit of paint, trying to fill the gap of the miniature, the joint gap with paint, and to simulate a little bit more. Okay, yeah, a lot of people in this hobby, we start with the gaming, and then it takes time until we embrace the painting. Okay, in my case at the beginning, I just was painting because I wanted to have the miniatures painted to play, but I was not paying too much attention to the painting. Now I realize that I spend more time painting than gaming, but I still have the mindset that I have to paint for the game. Although I try to do it in a good standard, but I always have this mindset. So I have to see what use I will give this miniature on a game. So I don't paint for contest for this. I don't know. It's my mindset, I guess, in a way, that I have to see how I will use this miniature on a game. And some miniatures, I have to say, they never have seen a gaming table. Some of my miniatures, but even when I paint them, I have to think how they are going to be used on a game. Okay. These inner parts of the banshees also. Okay, because this is the inner part is completely flat, so you cannot do anything there. You are just using the transition, leaving the bottom whiter and the top darker. Okay. Let's see if the orange have dry. Okay, the orange is dry now. So what? Yeah, I also do this. It's the same for me. Now, what you can do, there is two things you can do here, right? You can come back with the corn red, or I can come back with a lighter red. In that case, I will come with the scarlet. And what I will do is I will paint next to the orange. And you can go thick if you want, okay? But the important thing is that you go next to the orange and you leave a thin line of orange. Okay? Like you can see, I hope you can see here. Let's see, because I'm getting confused on. Okay? And now we will do the same on the other side. So you come on the top with a lighter red, and I just go and leave a very thin line. So I do the opposite. Instead of trying to make a thin line, I make one line that is thicker, and then I make the line thinner by putting the color next to it. Okay, so let me show. Okay, and once we have done that, they have put so many. Now I come again with the corn red, and I'm going over the lighter red. And I'm making now the lighter red thinner. So I don't bother if I make thicker lines, because then I will come with the base color and I will thin down the lines. And this is how it looks like now. Okay, and I have a very nice edge highlight on the border of the base. So my advice is, if you want to do edge highlighting, don't try to do thin lines. Do the opposite. Do thicker lines and then thin them down with the base color around it. It's much easier and it's much easier, not much faster. It's maybe, but as you don't have to pay too much attention to make thin lines, it can be faster. right? And you don't need super thin brush to do that. I just use the no, you can use a standard brush almost. Okay, so it's what I will recommend when you want to do edge highlighting if you are starting. Don't try to go for thin lines. Make thick lines and thin them down later, and they will look better. Sometimes, yeah. And I learned this after making so many mistakes trying to do edge highlight on Space Marines. Okay. So yes, and I think this will be the techniques I will recommend for painting. So I don't know if there is any technique that you would like me to talk about, any other technique that I'm missing. Then there is the powders or the pigments that can be used. I never use oil washes. I know that I need to experiment with that. This is another thing that is quite important. There are techniques where you feel more comfortable with, and other techniques that you don't feel or you don't see the need for them. So I will also recommend that you use the techniques that you feel comfortable with, and you go to the level where you want to go. Sometimes not everybody needs to go to the highest painting level, right? So, and not everybody have to use all the techniques that exist in the world. So do this technique that you think it's meaningful for you and you think can help you. Okay, but I will say there is techniques that fixing pigments. To fix pigments, yeah, I don't have. There's two ways to fix the pigments. One is to you can use even lamian medium to fix the pigments, but normally what I do is I varnish with matte varnish at the end. Okay, then if I need something gloss, I add this. Yes, fixing pigments. I don't have even pigment fixer. I use varnish to fix the pigments. Okay, and then varnishing, I do. Okay, here is the point. I don't do varnishing on most of my miniatures. I only do varnishing when I want a specific effect. Let's say I want to make a gem to be very glossy. I use gloss varnish. I had a satin finishing and I really want a matte finishing because I don't like the satin finishing on this part. I use a matte varnish, but I don't varnish the miniatures at the end of the job, of the paint job. Yeah, I was doing this at the beginning. I stopped doing that for laziness mainly because I stopped doing that because I ran out of varnish and then when I had varnish again, I had so many meters to varnish that yeah, I did not want to bother myself to start varnishing. And then if it's plastic miniatures like these ones, yeah, it depends a lot how much use you give to them. But if I play once a month and I'm doing myself, I'm not too much concerned. Even my kids sometimes play with some of these miniatures when I play with them, and I don't see on plastic miniatures there is no problem. On metal miniatures like this one, you have more problems, right? It's much, especially on the corners, you will see that paint to be chip out. But I have to say, even with varnish, the paint is chipping on metal. So I stop varnishing. I stop varnishing my miniatures. I don't do it anymore. Normally, painters for display they don't varnish because the paint. I have never varnished a model. Okay, so I'm good that I'm not the only one. I know that some people put a lot of emphasis on the varnishing and they want the paint to be very protected. But to be fair, even with my metal miniatures, I don't have too many problems. And when it's cheap, I just put them back to the table. I do a small repair, and that's all. Okay, I'm not bothering too much. And normally it's not chipping. I'm not too much concerned. So I don't do varnish anymore. I just varnish, I think, the first miniatures that I paint. The worst miniatures in my collection are varnish. So I only use, as I said, I only use varnish to give a surface finishing. If I want the miniature to look glossy, or I want to look wet or something like that, then I use varnish to do these effects. Okay, if not, I don't know. And as I'm painting, I'm not painting for contest. Okay, I don't feel so bad now as I see a lot of people saying you must varnish, but I'm not. Okay, no. Don't feel alone. At least we are two people now that don't varnish miniatures. Okay. And yeah. And I don't have too much problems. And I would say on plastic miniatures, if you don't varnish, it's not a big deal. Okay. So I will not be too much concerned. Yeah, maybe I did a video on pigments a while ago. Pigments are a completely different world. Okay, pigments, you can do washes with pigments. You can do like dirtening with you can apply the pigments dry, or you can apply the pigments wet. Depending how you apply, you can have different effects, and then you can even clean up the pigments. This is why it's important that the pigments, you don't use medium to thin them down, because if you use mediums, you are fixing the pigments when you're applying them. So if you want really, and the other advantage of the pigments is that they have a very matte, extremely matte finishing, what I like a lot. When you want to do, I use pigments to do dust and to do dirt effects. You also can use the pigments to do muddy because they give texture. But I mainly use them when I want to do dirtiness, and a lot on bases. Right? If you want to imitate earth or sun or something like that. Yeah, but it's completely different world and can be applied dry. I do when you want really a very matte finishing, like dust. I apply them dry, but you also can apply them wet, like a wash. Okay, and then even you can use later on a sponge, or I use them. You know the makeup sponges. I have some here. Let me see. In a minute, I will check if I have. I can show you what I mean. I cannot find them. I've been for a while that I've been not using pigments. Sorry if I go off camera one moment. Okay, I don't have it now, but you know what I mean. The sponges that are used for makeup, you can use them to clean up the pigments out. Okay, if not, you can use this type of sponges. Another technique that I was forgetting to mention, and I just realized now that I have a sponge. So if you want to do, I will use a piece of a sponge. Okay, these are from the very old blisters. So one technique that is great is to make when you want to do weathering effect. So one thing that you can do, and this is going to be now very quite a vast thing to do. So you take a sponge, you break it, take some paint, can be quite dry. Take a dark paint in the case. See, no, it's too dry. Let me take some paint. Here, I need to. Okay, this is almost finished. Let me take some paint like that. Okay, let's take a piece of a sponge that is not regularly broken. Okay, something that is like that. And now you put it on paint. You dry it, like if you were going to do dry brushing. First staple on a piece of paper. Now what you do, okay, you just staple this sponge. It was, take a little bit, was too, let me take a bigger piece. Okay. You do this effect. Now if you can see it, like it's like a random pattern, okay? Like if the paint is being chipped. You can put it here on the yellow, will be more visible. This is good, especially if you paint orcs, something like that, to make a dirt effect or a chip paint effect. So you take some. I think I recommend normally a dark brown or a black to do this effect. Okay, and then it's a matter of passion. Start slowly, and you start adding that. With that, you can make some nice type of dirtiness or chipping effect on the paint. So this is another technique that I use a lot on some vehicles, and I think it's quite interesting technique. Okay. Let me see. I struggle keeping the texture with pigments. If I apply them, what does the medium help with this? The medium will fix them. I will never recommend to use the pigments with medium. Because the medium, I think the medium is even making worse the problem of not keeping the texture. So where you want to apply the pigments, because there is different ways to apply the pigments and there is different things that you can achieve. For example, when I apply them on the base, just to make the effect of dust or dirtiness, so I apply them and then I just clean up a little bit, but I'm quite applying them directly without any type of liquid. I apply them completely dry. If you want to do dirtiness at the bottom of a cape or something like that, then you have to wet them, and you can use water to remove the excess. But if you put them with a medium, it will fix and it will not work. You will stop the interesting part of the pigments. So hi Julian Speed, thanks a lot for joining. Arrive a little late. What are you working on, Victor? So I'm working on some banshees. Okay, I was doing the wet blending on the capes, on the back, on the white clothes. I have to do still the green part, but I was working on these parts. Okay, and I was talking about painting techniques, and here I was sharing how to do wet blending very fast. Also talk about edge highlight. So I was using this base to talk. Let me see if I can put it in the right direction. Okay, to do edge highlight, and then I was also talking about different techniques, and now we're talking about pigments and the sponge effect. So it was a little bit open conversation about hobby points, and yeah, and now trying to paint the banshees. I did not finish if you're curious, I have not finished yet the Sisters of Battle, but I wanted to paint something different this time because I've been painting Sisters of Battle the previous one. So still 3 to go. This the 6th one is almost, the 7th one is almost done. Okay, so I have 3 and a little bit to go. And yeah, recently I have finish the the one with the Simulacrum Imperialis that have this bird at the back. So nice miniature. And yeah, things. So I use very small amount of water or alcohol to stipple on it. It depends what you want to do. Sometimes it's interesting to put a lot of water, almost like a wash. So when I was doing, for example, on buildings, when I want to do, there is two ways, right? If you want to make in the crevices, like if there is oxidation, something like that, I put quite a big amount. So maybe I can make here one of these. It's good that I have so much things around me. Then I can use. So let's imagine that I want to use the orange rust. Okay. This one, when you play pigments, after that, yeah, I need to clean up the water because the pigments are really dirt operation. So you can see I have here, this is full of pigments and still dirt in it. Okay. So the pigments are never fixed until you don't fix with varnish or with a medium to fix them. So let's put here I don't have any pigment, so I can put the orange. So I will use one of my old bad brushes and take some pigment. Be sure that the brush that you're using is dry. Okay, I put some pigment here on the palette. Not too much. Now we'll take water. Now is when I contaminate all my water with pigments. I will put water here. Okay, and I mix them. These pigments have a problem. They are not mixing quite nicely, and you have to mix them quite. You can use if you want a little bit of alcohol, but I don't have it here now. So you can see I create like a wash. Okay, it's very, very thin. And now what I will do, I will take this. Be careful because this flows differently than like a wash. And maybe I will put it here on the crevice. Okay, let's put it here. We can make some. You can put it around some of these rivets or different elements, like where the oxide will go, right? The rust effect will accumulate. Most like it will flow to the bottom. So I will go here and I will put it a lot on the bottom. We can put it on the floor. Okay, you can make on the floor. I can put it, for example, on some of these panels here. Okay, just random. Okay. The other thing is that I will put it, for example, around one of these nails, drip it down, and the next one, for example. So put it random, right? Something like that. So I will put it, I don't know, frame. I make this mistake. I know it by mistake that I used once Lamian medium because I wanted to have better control on how it flows, and it got fixed by mistake. So it was not working as I wanted. Okay, so I have put a lot of this. Okay, just to do some oxidation. Now you need to wait at this device. Okay, and now what you can do is, if you have too much, you come with water and you remove the pigments that you don't need. Or you can even take the brush and now I start. Okay. right? I come with just almost, you need to wash well the brush. And if I don't want too much here, I come with water and I start removing what I don't want. Notice this, I can show it like that. So there is much less. And now the part here that I don't want this on the rim, I just come with the tissue and I remove it. And now it's not red anymore. Okay. So this is the way I will do the oxidation. And this pigment was not great. It's not, have to be really mixed even more. Some of the pigments did not even mix with the water. So I need to mix it even more. Okay. So I can do, yeah, here I should do the, I can make this light off, the TV switch off. For example, here it is too dark. I will put some of this to make it more interesting and not just black. Okay, and then you just apply where you want it, right? So we can put, for example, I'm gonna put it on mobile parts, but you can put it on the top of the frame. So I will always say the oxidation normally will go where you have on nails, on the corners, on holes, so places where the water can accumulate for any reason, but will not go on the flat parts normally, or will go later on the flat parts. Okay, this is why I don't understand why the razor rust is a drying. It's a dry paint. Should be like the anhydrite oxide should be a wash. Okay, because normally the oxidation will go. So you can go more heavier or not on the oxidation, depending on how much you want on the rusting. Okay, so and then now we will need to wait that this dries completely. But you can see in some parts it's already looking like powder. I don't know if the camera can show that. Okay, and if I don't want it on some of the flat parts, now we can come with even with a sponge and clean it. And if the sponge is not working completely, always you can come with water and keep removing it. Okay, or softening it if you don't want too much rust. But you can see, for example, I like a lot how on this one here, okay, how the oxidation looks like now. I have this. The light is not the best. Let me see if I can move the light out like that. Okay, I like this mirror effect is how it looks like on this one. Okay, you have now you can make more or less depending on how much rust you want. Okay, but this is a way to do it, and I have now the rust put on this. And I paint this. I was not expecting to do this today, but it's good. Okay. The other way to use pigments is directly from the pot. But you need I need to change the brush. You need a dry brush, completely dry. No, you have to be, when you apply them dry, you have to be extremely careful because it's very dirtying. So, and I do it normally on the base, but these bases have a lot of detail there. So I'm risking to do some dirtiness. And I don't want to take a twin to see where I can do an example. Okay, let's imagine this is just a piece of wood, okay? So I can take a brown. Imagine that you want to do that there is some like sand on top of dust, then you just apply it. And you can see that it's very messy, but the advantage is that it will make look like sand, earth, right? Now what is important is once you have that like that, you go to a place where you are not going to dirty. I go to my garbage bin, and now you have this looks like really dirty earth, and it works on the basis super easy. You need to fix that. If you don't fix that, next time you use this miniature, you go with your finger, you touch it. You will not remove everything, but you will dirty your finger, right? Let me take. You can see, right? So you don't want that. You can even work to remove. You can see if I do it like that, the powder will fly away. So you want to remove a little bit the excess, but it's giving a quite nice. You can see how easy it is to make texture shading with dry pigments. So I do this a lot on rocks. This can be used a lot on rocks to give a very fast shading. I have used this a lot on the basis of my Stormcast Eternals when I wanted to do the dirtiness on the rocks. Okay. So this is the two ways, and that way to use pigment is to make dirtiness. Here I don't know where. So if you want to make, you need to darker one. So you want to make dirtiness, then you have to use. You see, remember that this is just pigments that I used long time ago. I just put water here. Okay, you will see. I just put water here. These are pigments that I did not clean. And this is I leave it because sometimes I use them just to do dirtiness. Okay, and you can see these are and these were there for I don't know months. I have not cleaned up this one. Okay, you could do like that. Now you take water, and I start dragging it. Okay, it will create this thing, and then you remove with the brush. You move where you want them. If it's too thick, if it's too thin, I put a little bit of pigments, or you let it dry. You can see by gravity will go down. This will help you to do dirtiness at the bottom of a cape. Okay. This is have too much water, so I need to put a little bit of pigment. Or you let it dry and then you do another layer. So again, it's a matter of patience. Now you have to wait that this dries, and then with the brush you can keep working with the pigments and move them where you need them. If you have too much on the top, you can come always with a tissue or with a sponge and remove the excess. So this is the advantage of the pigments. They will create dirtiness. Okay. The only problem with the pigments is that they are dirty. It's a dirty technique, so you have to clean up. So, for example, in my case, I need now to clean up the pots. So I cannot use these pots anymore because I'm risking, especially because I'm painting whites, to dirten the miniatures. Okay. So now I will need to throw away this water and put new water. Normally, I will recommend as well, if it's possible, that you have here, because I did not use too much, but if you're going to work along with pigments, do all the pigments at once, and after that, clean up your working place. And I think with that, I think I talk all the main techniques that I wanted to talk. I think I've been talking now for more than 1 hour and a half. Let me see. I don't see the time counter. But I think I've been working almost for close to 2 hours. So unless you have another question, I will give you some time. If not, here is 1:10 in the night, and I think it's a good moment for me to go to bed. And as I cannot keep working because I need to clean up all the water here and so on, I will put back my wet palette. Where did I put my wet palette? No. Okay, here. Okay, but I think, yeah, I hope. Yeah, let me know if there is any other question or thing that you would like me to cover. But I think these are the main points. So this is drying now. Okay, you can see now once the water is dry is not. So what you can do, I come back with the brush that I was using before. So now you can start messing up a little bit with the pigments and accumulating them and moving them and making more uniform when I want the dirtiness and removing when I don't want the dirtiness. Okay, if I remove a little bit, I come back, take a little bit. Okay, now they are very. Another thing that is very interesting, the pigments dry the water very fast. You can see, I put a lot of water here. It's not, okay? Even this one that was almost a wash is not anymore a wash texture. But this one, they put the water, it's almost dry now. So this is all now allowing me almost to work with almost dry pigments. And I can make now the transition much better. And now it looks like it has been dirty on this side. So I hope you find all this live session interesting. Okay, I'm trying to share with you the little things that I know, the little things that I use. Sometimes I can also do mistakes. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect in this world. We all make mistakes, as I said at the beginning. And the first thing we need to learn is how to correct our mistakes. If you have any other question, happy to share it. Okay, and please, if you see this after the stream is not on live, but you see this later on, feel free to leave comments below if you want to see any tutorial or any future tutorial on the channel. And it will help me a lot as well if you can share my channel or give a like and comment on my videos, because this will help me also to have more diffusion. As I said at the beginning, this month has been a little bit, I would say, disappointing because I have not grown too much on the channel, and I like it to see some grow. It's not that I'm putting some target on growing, but as any baby that you are working on or any project, you like to see a good evolution. So if you help me just on diffusing and on sharing, I will thank you a lot. Okay, so that's all for today. As usual, I want to thank all of you that have commented here in the chat and all of you that have viewed this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and have all of you Merry Christmas. I wish you the best during these holidays, and let's have a very great 2021. So let's have a good entry to the new year. So as I said before, thanks a lot for watching, and see you later. Bye.